I'm Candace. I am 33 years old and I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I am ADHD. and I also think that's a little bit my superpower in ways. I'm an artist, a multi passionate person. So I do hair, I do makeup. I also paint and draw and also went to school for massage therapy. So I just, I love knowledge and I love learning. And yeah, that is a little bit about me.
Candace, I am so excited to catch up with you and to welcome you to Refocus Together. I just am so appreciative of your time and excitement about joining the project. So thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's really exciting to talk about this, and um, it's a new adventure in my life, learning more about myself and ADHD. And I feel like even meeting you and working with ADHD online, we just had this connection, and I'm just excited to talk today.
We did have a connection, and I'm glad that you said
Yes.
that because I felt that too. And,
Yeah.
the days that we've worked together have been so busy. And so, you catch up as much as you can. And, when I'm sitting in your chair, but we are all there to work. So I'm so excited that we get this kind of one-on-one time to just dive into your story. I want to start at the beginning. So go back to before you were diagnosed and kind of just tell me a little bit about what led to you seeking out an assessment to begin with.
So I was a late in life diagnosis. Actually, I've only been diagnosed for just probably a little bit over 2 years. So it was pandemic times, and I was bored and downloaded TikTok. And I think this is a kind of a story that a lot of, at least American women, are telling me. Friends of mine as well. That I was scrolling through TikTok, and it's new, it's for your page, and the algorithm's trying to figure me out, right? And it keeps leading me to ADHD TikTok, and I was like, this is interesting, and this is really not anything that I think at one point in my life when I was going through college for massage therapy, I wondered a little bit. But this was like the time that I was hearing these women's stories online about ADHD and their struggles or the quirks or the, different things that they were going through finding out that they're ADHD. And I was resonating with a lot of it. So I talked to my partner as well, and he was like, yeah, I think maybe let's get you tested. And so I went searching and I found a place where I could get my ADHD testing done. And sure enough, I had ADHD. So it was like kind of like oh my gosh moment. And I don't know, just learning that diagnosis at 31 years old, I looked back on my life and realized how much of the struggles and the things that I was dealing with and some of the shame I had was related to ADHD. And it's been kind of a healing journey, to be honest with you, learning about my ADHD diagnosis.
I'm glad to hear that it's been a healing experience. And, it's so interesting to me knowing how we met. That first day on set, I would have been very surprised had you told me that you had just been diagnosed, 2 years ago, because in those moments when we were having those initial conversations just as a big group, you were so confident in what you were saying and you were so like very much engaged, and I felt very informed about ADHD and how it shows up in women's lives. And so I'm curious, when you look back at that time of looking at TikTok and then eventually getting the assessment, are there any things that stand out that really kind of caught your attention as far as what you were seeing, these women share online that was resonating with you?
Yeah, I think the biggest things were just like task initiation, being able to keep up. And it was something so prevalent in my life at that time. I was having struggles within my relationship with that, actually. My partner at the time was also ADHD, but presented it in a very different way, was a little bit more hyperactive and like really wanted to keep the house clean. And here I was like, things, piles of laundry and stacks of stuff that I knew what it was, but had just like left it around the house. That resonated hugely with me at the time because it was a conversation I was having with my partner. Another one actually that I saw that I don't think is acknowledged in a lot of people that know about ADHD is disordered eating. And that was huge for me. I just learning that might be a huge connection with my ADHD was a huge revelation, I think. And I resonated with a couple of creators about that. And just like knowing my brain and knowing to not blame myself for some of my disordered eating habits of forgetting to eat and then binge eating a ton of food later in the day, and always struggling with my weight and like staying consistent and trying to be healthy. And that those things were huge in my life. That those are big struggles of mine. And of course, like some time management. Any of my friends will tell you, they probably tell me to come to a place at least a half an hour to an hour earlier than I'm supposed to be there. I think the only thing I have the energy to get to on time is my job. So I have the anxiety that drives me to go do that. But having time management and getting to a place when I'm supposed to is always a struggle. And it's always, procrastination, wait till the last minute to do all the things and then rush, rush, rush. So those were big things that I saw with other women that were relating to it. Um, and the fact that we were undiagnosed until, 30, a lot of our anxiety and hyperactivity seemed to happen in our head, and we weren't outwardly, necessarily hyperactive, but my brain is very hyperactive. And again, that's something that seems to happen with women a lot more than men, especially when we're younger. And I think that's probably why I didn't get diagnosed with it, or people don't realize that about myself, because it's a lot of internal struggles and things that, besides like being late to things, people don't see how it shows up in my life unless you're like a close partner of mine.
I'm wondering, before adulthood, if you can look back and see any moments that pop up from your childhood or adolescence that you can go, ah, yes, that was ADHD.
Oh, for sure. I was, especially like middle school, right when your homework gets a little crazy and you get more responsibilities and things that you're supposed to be doing. And I lost my homework. I cannot tell you how many times, or I would forget about my homework, like in my backpack, in my binder, out of sight, out of mind, forgot that I even had to do it. I was amazing at testing, my intelligence. I was smart. I was having teachers being like, Candace, we don't understand. Like, you're not either applying yourself, or why are you not finishing these tasks? And at that time I didn't know any better, and placed a lot of blame on myself for those things. But yeah, I definitely struggled with homework projects. I would wait till the last minute if I had like a giant project that we'd have like month to complete, right? And I would wait until the night before and be up until 4 a.m. finishing that task or reading that book or doing that book report that I was supposed to be doing. And yeah. And I think another thing that I really, looking back, was the emotional like dysregulation. Like my inability at that time, being a teenager, I think the hormones and going through such a change, I really struggled with regulating my emotions. And, I ended up getting punished for it because I think my parents didn't really know any better. But I would have I would hold it in and have these big emotional outbursts. And, you know, looking back, I hear about that with more ADHD people and our inability to really do that, or really struggling with regulating those emotions. And I resonated deeply with that. Like, looking back, I can understand um, where I was at that point.
I want to ask a question, and
Sure.
it's kind of like I feel like I'm putting on my psychologist hat. I have no training whatsoever. It's just a follow up because
Yeah.
I'm curious. In those moments when the teachers came to you and were like, gosh, you get the material, you're testing well, you're engaged in class, and they said, I don't know why the homework is such a problem. Did you pull away? Did you go into the I'm going to avoid this, I don't want to talk about this, I feel ashamed of this?
Yeah, I felt. I think I'm just one of those people too that I was really hard on myself, and um, I think my parents and the people that knew me knew I was intelligent and had a lot of expectations of me, and the fact that they were pulling me aside, and even my parents having talkings to me about to try to motivate me, but it was, I don't know, it was very difficult to hear those words when I was just, my brain just forgot them. Like, didn't, I wanted to do the things and I wanted to do well so badly. But finishing the homework, I would just put it off and procrastinate. And then I would stress and cry. And, you know, school was a struggle. I think from like middle school on. Just to finish those things, I worked in a constant state of stress. Um, so, talking to anybody about it, they didn't understand. My parents didn't seem to understand why I couldn't just do the thing. And I told them I just can't do the thing. So, yeah, it was hard.
I have a follow up for this
Sure.
that I want to get to in just a second because it involves your work. And you've mentioned, when we started the conversation that you're late a lot, but you're never
Yeah.
late when it comes to your work because it's something you're so passionate about. And so I think, like we go back to high school and we're like, we did the homework for the stuff that we were really excited about, but we also didn't kind of know what that was in high school. Like if I could go back, I would be taking like shop class, I would woodworking, art, all of those things that I didn't think in high school I enjoyed. But I also think I was just like, oh, I have to get into a 4 year school. I have to do this list that other people's expectations for me. And so then you don't really even enjoy it. And so I'm throwing that out there, putting it out there into the universe because I want to start moving towards that by asking, you were diagnosed about 2 years ago and you mentioned some of the things that you quickly realized were connected to ADHD. So, what have you changed or added into your life in the last few years that has been specifically to address something involving your ADHD and how it affects your life?
Yeah, I live by planners, for sure. I think I ever started these routines and things that kind of keep me grounded and help me work better. I really do rely on technology quite a bit. I am very thankful for my smartphone and my iPad because I have reminders set up for everything, including taking my medication, because I will forget unless something alerts me to do that. So I think those things, and also I have really focused on meditation, mindfulness practices. I know when I'm not doing them, my brain gets even more jumbled. And when I'm doing them, I feel like I can kind of sort through, even though I have a lot of fast paced thoughts happening at all the time, I'm able to notice which ones are important, which ones to kind of let go of. Um, I think those are probably the biggest things. And I think adding exercise too, like even just walking my dogs in the morning and moving first thing in the morning seems to do wonders for my brain.
It's funny. They've said exercise, it makes you feel better. And we just, it takes us all who are resistant to it a long time to realize that. But I kind of use the analogy, like we talk about technology. If my phone sent me a notification being like, you have worked out 5 days in a row, this is what you've done, or, like some sort of an example of, what I've accomplished, in a way that I can quantify it, I'm like, oh, yeah. But it's because when we're doing something regularly, unless someone notices it or points it out or we're documenting it, we really sometimes forget that we are doing things to make ourselves feel better. And that's the point, It's like if we don't get, I don't want to say a participation trophy, but kind of like if there's not an acknowledgement,
Yeah.
it's hard for us to say, this is actually helping.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, even as you asked that question, like I felt like things were kind of popping up that I've been doing. The more that I've learned about ADHD, I think that's so important for anybody that's been diagnosed with it too, is read it, listen to your podcast, listen to all the podcasts about ADHD, learn from books, because it really does help give you ideas. And everybody's ADHD journey is so different, and what you need too. So I think it's such a personal thing to figure out what's going to work for you. And I'm still figuring it out. I still feel like I'm very early. I'm still, figuring out medication and all those things. And routines are just a new thing for me to figure out, what works, what doesn't, and, trial and error.
Well, and I imagine in your line of work, because there is no routine. You are working so many events, you're getting, um, picked up for, day long shoots like you did with us. And it's hard to establish a routine when what you're passionate about doesn't have a routine.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the harder things about my job, honestly. And I like it because my ADHD brain loves change. Like, I get so bored if I am doing the same thing over and over again. I had work where I was in a salon, or I've worked retail, and I was so bored because my day didn't change up as much. And I think in some ways it's so great, in other ways it's really hard. And like I said, I live by the planner, and I still make mistakes. And I just, knowing this, I have told people, people that work with me frequently, I'm like, give me reminders. If you can, those little things help out so much. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a learning process on how to manage all the things coming at me at once, and how my day constantly changes. But I think I'm slowly developing a morning routine and an evening routine when I'm home, and that really grounds me. And again, I'm not perfect. Some days I fly out of bed and I rush, put my clothes on, and fly out to a wedding early in the morning because it is so early. But the days that I do have a little bit of time, I really try to keep into those routines and start off my day in that way.
Well, let's talk about how you found this career you're so passionate about, because you mentioned, knowing yourself and knowing your ADHD and seeing how it comes out. You're very creative, and that's something that I hear a lot of people with ADHD talk about, whether it's creative in the sense of art or creative in the sense of just not as much inside the box, so to
Right.
speak. And I also am curious because a lot of women tend to have more of the inattentive symptoms, and sometimes that's people pleasing. But with your line of work, you get to do something for someone, and they then are grateful. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I get in your chair and I'm just like, this is so awesome. There's this like kind of pampering feeling to it. And then, one of the reasons why I felt so comfortable on set was because you made me feel so good by how I looked. You know, like I was comfortable on camera because I felt good about how I looked. And so I imagine there's a part of that that is this people pleasing, you know, like that is a love language. It's what fills up your cup. Like you wouldn't do it if you just were like, oh, I'm really loving this work, because I imagine there are days where someone isn't as excited about their look or they have something that they want to fix. And like that would be something that would be very hard for me to not take personally.
Oh, for sure. It is. It's still really hard, honestly. I definitely have the people pleasing, and I think it is truly to my benefit in the industry that I'm at. You know, doing hair and makeup for people, doing weddings, doing commercial work. You know, you you want to make these people happy, and I really do love this job because first of all, it is artistic, and I get to paint people's faces. Really, I mean, and another part of it is I love making, especially women, feel beautiful and feel empowered and feel strong, and that's something that makeup has done for me, on top of giving me a creative outlet. So just that reward of making these connections with people, because I really love that one-on-one with my clients. So having that one-on-one connection with them and being able to make them feel like $1,000,000 is like so worth it. And I do have those clients that, you know, need adjusting or might not be the happiest, but I feel like because I really do care and I do listen, um, I feel like I'm pretty lucky and I don't get those people too much. Um, but it, uh, yeah, it's to my benefit. I think a little bit of the people pleasing being in the service industry. Um, and again, we have the ADHD, and rejection is hard. And having somebody critique it, but that's just been experience of like learning to breathe through it and not to take things personally, and reminding myself of that aspect. You know, I get through it. Not that it's ever easy, but you
No.
know, we figure it out. And you know, that's, I want to make people happy. I want to make people feel good and strong. So if that means that I push my ego aside of what I've, you know, created on your face or your hair, that I need to make tweaks, then that's okay.
Well, ADHD or not, that is a skill set you need in your line of
Yeah.
work. You know,
Yeah.
like it shows growth and it shows that you are passionate about what you're doing when you're able to go, okay, these are stories I am telling myself in my head. This is what is actually happening, and I can move forward.
Correct.
But it's
Yeah.
so much easier right now to just be like, oh my gosh, we have it. This is all figured out.
Yeah, this is fine. Of course, I love the clients that, you know, are giddy about what I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you make me look so good, and I feel so hot. I feel powerful." You know, those are great. You know, but you know, the difficult clients are, it's a learning opportunity for me, and um, you know, I've noticed as I've moved on in my life and as I've gotten older, I think I've gotten a little bit better about taking that type of criticism and running with it, and kind of knowing my self worth, and that I'm good at what I do, and that I can fix it, that I can make them happy. I have that ability.
So we've been kind of talking about positive ways that ADHD shows up in your life without actually talking about positive ways that ADHD shows up in your life.
Yeah.
I didn't ask that specific question, but I'm so glad that that's where the last couple of minutes have led. And I'm wondering, you know, I talk to a lot of people with ADHD who are like, I work so well under pressure. And I've got to imagine when you're on a set or you're at a wedding, stuff goes wrong.
Yes.
Life goes wrong, and then you are in the middle of it. So I would love to know, you know, what you've experienced in that adrenaline rush of, all right, it is my time to shine. I need to do whatever to alleviate, you know, some of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I think my body is literally built for pressure because I've been training like this since I've been a teenager. I have been training to be under pressure for projects and all sorts of stuff. So I do really work well in a pressure situation. At the time, sometimes it's a little nerve wracking, but I have had experiences. I early on in my career, when I was actually still in school at Douglas J, going for cosmetology, I got accepted to go do this makeup artist boot camp out in California with this makeup artist out in Hollywood. And I worked with him and 5 other girls from around the country. And we had competitions and things where we were performing and doing certain types of makeup looks. And I was able to just really hyper focus on what I was doing and like getting this look up on this model and getting her out. And I had another girl in the same group that was having a hard time and kind of cracking and having a meltdown and couldn't finish the model. And I, again, my superpower of ADHD and, you know, training for all that pressure, I just grabbed her and was able to fix it and put her up, and she was ready to be shot. And, you know, being a makeup artist is kind of high pressure job. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but when you're on set, if you're doing runway, if you're doing editorial, you know, there's a time slot. Even weddings, you know, especially because there's, you know, a ton of people that need to be done in a really condensed amount of time. Um, you just like, I am just able to focus on it, and I do love it. So I think when you do really love something, it does become your superpower and able to just focus on what you're doing and it. And yeah, I do love that about myself. I think I am Olympic trained under pressure, and that makes me a good makeup artist. I know that I can do all sorts of things with a very little amount of time. Um, yeah.
I want to ask, when you look at life, because we have focused so much on your career, when you think of ADHD and the positive ways it shows up for you outside of work, what jumps out?
Mm, I would say I, outside of work, I still think I'm a pretty creative person. Um, I'm pretty innovative, and I would say that it's a good question. Um, I think I'm a pretty understanding person too, honestly, with my experience with ADHD. I really am easygoing when it comes to my relationships and my friendships. Um, I see, you know, people's struggles and lives getting busy, and I don't take those things personally when I don't hear from them, because I know that I am that way, and I know that I struggle to keep connections with people because of my ADHD. Unfortunately, with people, even out of sight, out of mind, it happens. And it's nice to have, I think I've built a really great amount of like community and friends of people that get that about me, and knowing that I'm there and that I love them. But I'm super understanding about life. And I think that makes me pretty compassionate and uh, a good friend to have, you know, when life is crazy. I get it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I kind of joke, if I've cut you out, it's probably for a really, really good reason.
Yes. Yep. That's if I'm really protecting my energy, or, you know, I can't live up to, um, you know, some people are just not for me. And some people have an expectation of what they expect in relationship or friendship. And, um, you know, with my ADHD, sometimes I can't be that friend. And that's okay. And I've learned to kind of let those people go. And the people that know me and love me know that I'm literally a phone call away if they ever need me, and I would be there in an instant if they did. Um, but I'm not always the most in your life communicative person. And that's just me. And yeah, again, like it makes me pretty understanding of life circumstances. I'm never going to be mad at somebody for, I could go years without talking to a friend of mine, and I could pick it up like it was just yesterday, and catch up and be fine.
Where do you see yourself thriving with your ADHD and what you know now versus what you thought prior to your diagnosis?
I see myself thriving. Um, I definitely am a very career focused person. And I feel like I really truly am meant to be in this world to create and to, inspire other people to create. And I think I really do thrive in those either high pressure environments with work, or even life. Now I'm becoming really good at it. I People around me say I'm very like chill and easygoing, and I think that's a great thing. And I also think that I'm thriving in a way that I'm just multi passionate and I'm curious. I have a very curious mind, and I love to learn, and I love to share that knowledge with people. Um, as we've even like experienced between the two of us, like you were telling me how I was just knowledgeable, and I'm just a nerd. Like I love to learn, and I love to learn about myself, especially with psychology, and knowing that now that I'm ADHD, I've been diving deep into that. And um, I love learning about the human experience, and um, I think I really thrive in just by soaking up that knowledge, and just sharing that with others, and continuing to create and express myself. I think even that is just really great.
I want to ask, obviously, in the midst of ADHD Awareness Month, one of my goals with telling as many different stories throughout the month of October was to really paint a picture about how complex it is. And I think every
Mm-hmm.
person has said it. ADHD is different for every single one of us, and it shows up differently, and it ebbs and flows differently. And so I'm curious, when you look at the narrative around ADHD right now, and what you've experienced during your time with your diagnosis, what is something that you really wish the general population knew or understood a little bit better?
Yeah, I think that knowing that it's just not about like the productivity and the forgetfulness and even just the time blindness, like those things alone are hard. And especially living in our modern fast-paced world, it is difficult, but there's so much more. The emotional side to it, I think, really, like the emotional regulation, the disordered eating, the impulsive behavior that a lot of ADHD people deal with. I think there's a darker side that people, want to poke fun at some of the ADHD symptoms, which they are. Some of them are ridiculous, and, we have to laugh at ourselves. But I think there is a huge correlation with mental health, and, something that I've really struggled with personally. I think knowing this diagnosis, if I had known earlier, might have made me be kinder to myself. And I think it's really important for people to notice this with themselves or their kids, and go reach for a diagnosis, because it could save somebody's life. It truly could.
I've cried in a few of these, and when you said it would have made me kinder to myself, it kind of broke me a little bit, because I think that is so much of us. There are so many times where we were not kind to ourselves. And I think women specifically, we are just led from such a young age, with ADHD or without, to not be kind to ourselves. And when we look back and we see those moments where we were really unkind and unfair to ourselves, and we can see why we were that way, it's very hard, and it almost brings on this new feeling of shame and regret about how we treated ourselves. And so it's just like this constant work in progress, and it can get tiring.
Yeah, um, it's been one of, like I said early on, this diagnosis has led to a lot of healing for that reason. I was hard on myself, and I had a lot of mental health struggles, especially in my teenage years and my early 20s was really hard. Um, and forgiving myself and having compassion for myself in those moments and understanding my diagnosis has allowed me to start to heal and remove some of that shame that I felt um, throughout my life, really, with a lot of the symptoms that I exhibit and the things that I struggle with. Um, I think that alone will allow me to function so much better in this world than beating myself up for not being able to perform or um, not do the things that I have been dreaming about. I think you have to mourn some of that part of your past self too, and the experiences and things that you went through, um, so that you can move on and live your life from this point in a lot more love and understanding for yourself. Um, and that's like one of the biggest messages, really, I think, um, and why I think a lot of women do need to be diagnosed or seek help for it if they think they do have it, because it's been life changing for me, really. And yeah, the kindness that I have for myself now, it's not always perfect. Everybody's got bad days, but I find myself talking to myself with a lot more compassion and love, and that alone is worth everything.
That makes me so happy to hear. And I
Yeah.
hope I'm in your chair sooner rather than later. And we
Me
can
too.
just pick up right where we left off, because that's how it is when two people with ADHD get together.
Yep.
And
And I love it.
exactly, right. There's no pressure. It's just like, oh, it's going to be a good day.
There is something special about having a conversation with another ADHD person, and now I can recognize it. And I love it so much because we can just bounce from subject to subject and kind of be a little, all over the place. And um, it's just so fun to talk to you. And I'm so glad we got to connect.
Absolutely. I feel exactly the same. Thank you so much for coming on Refocus together and just
Yeah,
being
it
so
was an honor.
candid and thoughtful. And it's a gift. And I'm really grateful to you for your friendship and for your trust in this moment. And
Of course.
we'll see you in Michigan soon, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, I hope so too. It's good to see you. I love your haircut, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. This was what I had been talking about.
We were talking about it.
We had talked about
It
it. I
looks
was
great.
nervous, but it had to happen.
You did it, girl. It looks awesome.